I'm Renelle.
I'm Karen.
So we put together this expo basically for you guys, because when we started we really struggled to find resources and connect with people that's in the same boat of homeschooling. So we thought we'll start with registrations, because that was the first thing that made us say, oh, this is too hard. It's not, it's really not hard. So
yes, so today we'll just run through registration and then at the end just what we do and how we can help you. So registration in Australia, or in New South Wales I should say, is under the Act. You are primarily responsible for the education of your child, and you can decide what and how that looks like, whether it is sending your child to school or educating them at home. It is your responsibility, so you have the choice. So to be homeschooled, a child must be registered with NSW. I can just add that earlier in this year, the Department of Education took over NSW. We knew them as NSW. We are not sure yet what that means and how that will look like in the future. There is nothing yet that they've brought out to say what's changing or what is not changing. Even the local APs are not able to tell us anything. So I am going to refer to NSW because that is still the information that we do have, but that might change next year to Department of Education. I am not sure. So excuse me if there's anything in here that might change in the future. Okay. So requirements for registration. So children residing in New South Wales may be registered by the time that they turn 5, and then they can be registered up until the year that they are 18, and you can even get a grace period after that to allow them to finish their schooling. But in saying that, a child younger than 6 and a child older than 17 are not required to be registered. So you only legally have to register your child when they turn 6 and only have to keep them registered until they're 17. But there is that grace in there if you wanted to continue it and have it on record after that or before that age. Okay. The maximum period for homeschooling is 2 years, although initially you will only get a maximum period of 1 year. That can sometimes even be shorter than that, but it is up to the IP to decide what length of period she will grant you, but you will never get a period more than 2 years as it is written at the moment. Okay. You want to take from here?
no, you can keep going.
Okay, so how do you register? Quick start is do your research. Decide if that is something that you want to do for your family. Whatever your reason for homeschooling, you know your child best, you know what is best for your family, and you know the paths that you want to take. Plan your approach. How are you going to go about this? How are you going to teach your kids the outcomes that they need to meet in order for them to thrive and learn and be a contributing member of society once they leave your nest and move into the adult world. You then apply for registration. You have your AP who come for a review. An AP is authorized person. They come to your home, they review your plan. We'll talk about it a bit later, but your child has to be there on the day. She has to cite your kids or children or child. And once she's there, she will either approve you or not approve you, but you'll get a certificate of registration. That certificate is what you can then use to show if somebody might knock on your door and say that a neighbor, nosy neighbor, I see your kids are always playing outside, what's happening? You've got that certificate. You don't have to show them anything, but you do have that certificate, and you can always say that my kids are registered and we are teaching them, we are approved. My kids do not have to be in school.
It also makes it easy if they want to go to TAFE or university. They're going to ask for proof that they have been schooling, so that just makes it very, very easy if you can provide evidence that they are registered. Some schools they do ask for the registration number, which you get for each child individually.
Yes. So every registration you do is for a separate child, it's separately for each child, so you can't bundle all your kids in one registration or one application. You do one for every child. Okay, so what's the requirements? So you have to record and implement the educational program. So when you're doing your planning for the AP, you're going to have an educational program that you plan to implement, plans do change, and the IPs do know that they are flexible in that. But you do have to show them that you have something on record on how you plan to teach your kids.
And it doesn't have to be major. They just want to know that you as a parent are actually thinking about your child. You have plans, and just not saying, oh, we'll wing it day by day. You all know how life goes. If you wing it day by day, you get to the end of the year and nothing's been done. So it's just to get your mind around what needs to happen, be prepared, and that gives you peace of mind as well, knowing what lays ahead, what you need to do. But it gives the AP also reassurance that your child's not just going to sit in front of the TV 24/7, not learning anything. Okay,
so it is open to the parents to choose their learning plan, and as long as it is the registration requirements are met, you are able and flexible to choose what you are going to teach your child. I know there's many families who choose American resources, and that is also fine because it is your plan and you can show how you're going to meet those outcomes for the AP. So methods and resources, there's no one teaching method that works for every single family, and there's no one teaching method that works for every single child. So you might see that what works for one child does not work for another child, but again, you know your child best and you can tailor it according to your children's needs. You can choose to use paper-based resources, you can choose to use online resources, you can do a combination of these resources, you can even choose to use life skills. There's many families who choose to use that. It is up to you, and again, what works for one family does not necessarily work for the rest, and what works for one child does not work for all the kids. So in your application, you can apply for registration at any time during the year. You do not have to wait for a new school year. You can apply any time of the year that you want. The department does advise that you apply 3 months in advance before you plan to start homeschooling, but it is also an option, and again, we're not the authoritative figures on that. There's many families who pull their kids out of school because it's not working and then apply for registration. But again, legally, they are still supposed to be in a formal school system, so you will have to discuss that with the school because they can't just move your kid or remove them from their records until you've got your registration in plan. And that's why they advise you to do that 3 months in advance, because the whole registration period takes roughly 12 weeks from when you apply up until when you've got your certificate. And it's only when you've got that certificate that you are, in their eyes, legally allowed to homeschool your kid and not have them enrolled in a school. So what is the process and how do you prepare? You must have available their educational program, information about their learning needs, material to show how you're planning to do this, supervising and recording teaching and learning experiences.
And it doesn't have to be massive. Like you can say, my child really struggles with reading, so this next year we are going to focus on reading. These are the books we're going to use, these are resources, this is how I'm planning on helping her. And it literally just have to be like 1 or 2 little sentences or paragraphs. It doesn't have to be like, you know, a uni document that you put together. Like just simply something that she knows, you know your child, you know their best interests, and this is what you're planning to do.
Okay. Material to show the system for recording the child's progress and achievement. So you do have, at the end when you do your re-registration, you will need something to show what you've achieved in the period before this re-registration. So that's what that is. And
but that can be really simple. Like you can have a diary. If you have an excursion or you're going camping, you just write in your diary, we went camping on this date, this time, this is what we've done. You can do Google Docs. I'm useless with a diary. It always sits at home and I'm somewhere else. So I just have a Google Doc where I quickly, beginning of the year, I'm awesome. Like all the dates are there, we're doing everything, and then halfway through the year I forget. But just date everything down, what you've done, where you've been, what you've done. Photos especially, we like photos, and then I just go back through my photos. I'm like, oh yeah, we've done this. Oh, remember we've done that. So take as many photos as you can. It's also remembrance of your days homeschooling your kids when they are out of school. So I like photos. Some people are much more structured and well planned. But yeah, any way that you can just remember what you've done, because you just date everything and you show them what you've done. And that you can use as well to show the outcomes. if my kids go surfing, that's part of physical education, the PE subject. They have to do something physical, learning a skill. So you can use that without having a book.
Yes. So time allocated to learning, that's what they also want to see. They want to see that you've got some dedicated time in your week where you are planning to actually have your child learn. And then information about how the home provides an effective learning environment. I think I can't really talk on their behalf, but I think they don't want to see a really disorganized home full of clutter where there's no actual space for the child to sit and do their work. It will come up a bit later, but you don't have to have a dedicated space only for learning that's set up like a classroom environment. You can do your learning every day at the kitchen table if you wanted to. You can do it on the floor in the living room if that is what you've got. But I want to see that there's at least a space and an environment for the child to learn, and it's not just all chaos.
I think the requirement is there needs to be a window, so just fresh air and a bit of light, so not a dark, dingy space. So if there's a window, you have a table and a chair, you're good to go. Don't have to spend a lot of money.
And how do you show that the resources are adequate to support your child's learning needs? Again, if you know your child, you'll know that the resources in the plan that you've picked out to teach them will be adequate to support their needs. And that will differ from child to child. Okay, so what will the IP focus on when she comes to your home? At the moment it is home visits. There was a time period where it was all online and Zoom, but they have gone back to home visits, so she will be visiting you at your home when she does the initial registration. So she does not assess your child. She does not bring out a test and ask your child all kinds of questions to see what they know. They will ask your child questions, but general questions like, what do you like to do in the day? Do you like going to surfing? Do you like this? Or what's your interest? So she doesn't assess your child. And again, if your child is a bit shy, they will understand that. Your child must be there. There are certain circumstances where it is not necessary for your child to be there, but that is authorized on a person-to-person basis. So how that works, I don't know if anybody whose children has not been there. So they must cite your child. If there's anything that prevents your child from being there, reach out to them, talk to them about that, get that approved. But they want to see that the child is actually there and the child is happy and thriving. She will review your plan. She will review what you've set in motion. If you've got books, she will look at the books to see what are you planning to do with your child during the next period of time. And that will also then help her or him. In our local IP is a lady called Terrell. That will help her to decide whether she'll approve you for the year that she's allowed to, or whether she'll give you a lesser period of 3 or 6 months and then tell you what you might need to improve on in order to get a longer registration the next time around. If she says, she will give you guidance. There are parents who's not gotten the first year registration as a full year and only got 3 or 6 months, but she did give guidance and said, this is why, and I would like to see X, Y, and Z next time. So you work towards that, and then next time, hopefully you will get a 2-year registration.
The AP is on your side. General thing out there is like, oh, they're against you and they want to make life hard. It's not their job. Like they want to see people succeed in homeschooling because that's their passion. That's why they are the AP. So they'll do everything in their power to help you as far as they can. Okay, so if you're willing to work with them, you can go far away. I had an issue with the kids where I needed material and I asked her and she just gave me a bunch of things to look into. So they're there to help you. Okay, so use them as well.
Okay, so once you've lodged your application, roughly week 1, you lodge your application with NESA, then they will start looking at your application and do their site from week 1 to week 3. So this is just an overview of what happens and when it happens. From week 2 to 6, your AP will phone you to arrange a visit. It is usually a phone call. You can schedule a time that suits you. If she suggests a time and it doesn't suit you, say, sorry, it doesn't work. I only have availability in 2 weeks' time because of this or this. They are really friendly and flexible. So she then comes out to see your kids. Like I said previously, your child has to be there, but your child is not assessed. There's no test in there. It is just that your child physically has to be there. That's roughly week 3 to 8. Week 4 to 10, they make a recommendation to NSW whether to approve or not approve, and if they approve, what period of time. I've heard initial registrations being either 3 months, 6 months, or a year. Generally, it is a year, like we said, unless there's something that she might find needs work on or is not really in the best interest of the child. Okay, then week 5 to 11, NSW considers a recommendation and makes a decision. And then from week 6 to 12, a certificate is issued and is emailed to you. We've seen that it's more likely to be around the 12-week mark than the 6-week mark. This is as per their guidance. But I know since COVID, the APs has been really busy. There's many families who's pulled their kids out of school and are registering. So it is tend to be more on the 12 and 11 week side than it is the 5 or the 6 as indicated there. It is roughly a 12-week period. But when we did ours first time, when she was with our meeting in there, she made the recommendation to NSW and she could give me my kids' registration number right there and then, and I didn't have to wait for my certificate. So I could already send that off to the school without having the certificate and tell them, this is the number that I do have, you can now unenroll my kids and stop sending me absentee forms for my kids. So what does it look like for primary aged kids? What do you need to cover on a day-to-day or year basis? So I don't know if everybody knows, but New South Wales works in stages. So year 1 and 2 is stage 1, then 3 and 4 stage 2, and it goes on. So over a 2-year period, over a stage. So your child has to do English, maths, science and technology, human society and its environment, HSIE, that is covered under geography and history. Creative arts, and then PDHPE, so physical education, personal development. PDHPE and art is really easy to get your ticks with. Sports, going out and about, talking about their personal well-being, healthy food choices, socializing with friends. And creative arts, just dance at home, that's dancing. Drama classes, art lessons, even art through a video or a book, copy this picture, let's talk about this, an art museum, all of that is covered under art because there's always discussions in that.
If they build a sandcastle on the beach, take a photo, that's your evidence, that's art.
And again, like Renelle said earlier, if you go to an art museum, date it, put it in your diary, because you would have talked about it. There's no way that you go there and you don't talk about it with your child afterwards or even during the visit. And that gets covered. Even things like history and geography. If you take a holiday, it's geography. Where are we going to? Let's look at this on a map. What is this town? How many people live there? What is its history? It's all on Google. You just Google it and you find it. Go to a museum, a local museum, and you've got all of that covered. It's actually really easy. Maths and English, yes, that might be a bit more tricky, especially as they get older, but there's so many resources that covers all of this.
But if you bake a cake, you can put that down as maths, because that's milliliters, liters, you're counting how many eggs. So anything you do with your child, record it, because somehow you can incorporate that as evidence of what they've already done. Just normal life, you do so many life skills that targets all these without even knowing, without even having a book.
We did so many that I didn't even know about when my kids were in school, because you don't focus on that. Okay, so for high school, similar, but your electives are a bit different. So you must still include your English, maths, science, and history and geography. But then you've got 2 electives that you can select from. And under each of them are also a bunch of little routes that you can explore, but that, again, depends on your child's interests. But you've got creative arts, technology, PDHPE, and languages. Okay, so your child can select any of those, and you can choose. So if you've got art and technology for year 7, you can always do PDHPE and languages in year 8, if you wanted to. Okay, so time allocations, because that's also something that a lot of parents ask, is how much time does it take each day to teach your child? So from kindy to year 2, you've got roughly an hour a day for 3 to 4 days a week of formal education. Obviously you do a lot more than that, but if you wanted to go and get books, formal sitting down education, roughly. Year 3 to 4 is roughly 2 days a week, 2 hours, 4 days a week. 5 to 6, roughly 3 hours, 4 days a week. Year 7 to 8, 4+ hours, 4 days a week. And then year 9 to 10, as the work gets a bit more, 4 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week. But again, this is a rough guide. I found that there's many days where we don't spend as much time on schoolwork because the kids might have worked a bit quicker or might have done a bit of work in advance, so it's a guide only.
That's the nice thing about homeschool. We'll take maths. Some days the maths is really easy, so she'll finish in half an hour. But then other days the maths will be really tricky, and that can take her an hour and a half. And that's what's nice about homeschool, is the flexibility, where in the class you need to finish it in an hour. If it's not done in an hour, you're not going to get it done. They don't go back to it, they don't revisit it, we just keep building. Where now, in her own time, she can like, well, I don't have to be rushed. And if I finish quick today, I'll be finished. And tomorrow, if I work a bit longer, then that's fine too. Our kids love it because they don't have school on Fridays. They work way too quick if they do have school on Fridays as well, and then they finish. We have to buy books halfway through the year. So because at school you have so many things that takes the time away from learning, to keep the kids there from 9 to 3 is a really big job. So you fill it with assembly, you fill it with lunch and recess, fill it with subjects just to fill up the curriculum. If you take all that away and you really focus on learning, it really takes 2 to 3 hours. Again, it will depend day to day, subject to subject, but most of the time, real learning happens only in that period of time.
Okay, so monitoring. Just like, I wouldn't say a small warning, but it's just something that I've mentioned in there as well, is that it is your responsibility for your child's education and for keeping records to show how it is being implemented. Nessa might do a monitoring visit. They might get a complaint and come and visit you. It rarely happens, but it is just to say that it could happen. I've never heard of this happening ever before. I don't think they've got the time either. Completing year 10. So we all want our kids to succeed in life. So we get them to year 10, and then what? So under the Act, you have to complete year 10, and you complete it either when you finish year 10 or by the age of 17, whichever comes first. That bit is still a bit conflicting to me. I'll get to the conflicting part, but yes, year 10 finished or 17. So year 10 is completed by one of the following approaches. So either homeschooling or formal schooling, a course provided at TAFE that is approved. So that's similar to a year 2, a certificate 2. You can do the equivalent of year 10 in another state, Queensland, Victoria, ACT, or education in any special circumstances approved by the minister. So apprenticeships or traineeship, that's also how you can complete year 10. So under the Act, if a child completes year 10 and is not yet 17, the child is required to do one of the following until they turn 17. So that's to me why you complete it, but then you're not, because you're not 17 yet. They must participate in full-time approved education, so it's either homeschooling or training, or if they're at TAFE. If they're over 15, they must be in full-time work, or a combination of work and education, or training for equivalent on a full-time basis. So that's, again, apprenticeship could work. Going to TAFE, a full-time course there, that works. Once they're 17, or full-time work. There's many kids who turn 16 in year 10, then they finish there, but then they usually move on to either TAFE or full-time work. So that is just for them to make sure that once that child hits 16 and they've maybe finished year 10, they're not being neglected, because they're still children actually until they're 17. They want them to at least be doing something formal, whether it's education or working in a full-time position. So, participants in a full-time training, apprenticeship or traineeship or the completion of a vocational certificate 2 delivered by TAFE are equivalent to completing year 10.
So you can maybe give the example of Alyssa with her year 10 and then...
Yes, my daughter did a certificate 2 at TAFE in salon management, and that was equivalent to a year 10 certificate, and she could move from that one onto a certificate 3 in beauty services at TAFE, and they were happy with that. She started the certificate 2 before she was even finished, obviously, with year 10. They just wanted my homeschool registration number, and I could enroll her, and she started that instead of the year 10. She still did some subjects at school, so I also got her the year 10 certificate, but it's not necessary to get that because she had the certificate 2. Okay, ROSA and HSC. You cannot get a ROSA, which is Record of School Achievement, or a HSC through homeschool. If you want the ROSA, you have to do that through a school system. ROSA is equivalent, what they call it in homeschooling is just the completion of year 10. So in school they'll call it a ROSA, but we call it a completion of year 10, and it is similar, but it's just called something else. So if you are definitely after a ROSA, you'll need to go another route. Homeschooling would not be the option. Again, HSC, you cannot get HSC through homeschooling. There's other options if you really want that certificate, like you can get that through TAFE, or if you want to go to university, the lady that spoke before, Sharon, she advised on going to university, and she can definitely help with that.
Bridging courses, etc. The year 10 certificate for the school is very similar, certificate of completion. The way you do it, you just phone the AP and you tell them your child's done with year 10. She arranged a visit, and it's exactly the same as you've been going through every 2 years. You show her the evidence of what your child has done. If she's happy, then she'll just approve you the certificate. So TAFE will ask for either year 10 ROSA or the certificate of completion. So they don't distinguish between the two. Or if you do the Cert 2 directly, you don't need the year 10 certificate.
So you may apply for NSW for a certificate of completion. It is optional, it's not compulsory. NSW does not require a child to obtain a certificate of completion of year 10. They don't necessarily, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. And again, they don't assess your child. They're not going to give your child a test to see whether they can or cannot get it. The application takes roughly 10 weeks. The advice, you can do it up to 6 weeks before your child is actually finished with year 10. If you think your child will be finished, you can do it. And if your child is finished and you're still thinking whether you want to or not, you still have 12 months after that year 10 registration period expired that you can still apply for the certificate if you're still kind of making your mind up on that once your child is finished.
You have nothing to lose, and I think for our kids it's just that stamp of, yes, I've done it, we've reached year 10, we're all alive, mum has done well. Well, it's more a certificate for us to say we've done it, you know.
And again, your child is not assessed, but when the AP comes, your child must be present. Okay, so the process, again, you submit your application to NSW. NSW looks at your application and she allocates an AP to you. The AP contacts you, arranges a visit, comes out to your house. She conducts the assessment and see what you've done and whether you've implemented the plan or not. She will make a recommendation to NSW, and NSW will then send you the certificate. Again, this is more towards the 10-week side than the 4 weeks. It does take roughly 10 weeks to get that certificate, so plan ahead. So I think, Renal, this is where you can take over with what does it look like for us, how do we do it?
One thing I want to say, when you do your plan for what you're planning the next year, when she comes back to reassess what you've done, she never looks at the original plan, not once. So I have listed books and resources and I had this awesome plan, but when I got to the end of the year or end of 2 years, I've hardly touched on some of those resources, and that's okay too. As long as you can prove what you've done through the year and 2 years, she never looks back at your original plan. Okay, this is just, do you have a plan? Do you have some place where you're aiming for? Okay, so don't worry about sticking to the plan. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We've bought books And my child had one look at it and I'm like, this is not going to work for you. And we never worked out of those books. Okay, luckily I could sell it, but it happens sometimes. All right, so don't be too worried about sticking to your plan. Refer to it every now and again. But as life goes on, you're going to incorporate different resources. So don't worry about it too much. How do you click this thing?
The forward button.
There we go. Okay, so homeschooling for us, we work together as a family. She works full-time, I work part-time. So when we work, we can do it together at the table with the kids, especially when they're younger. We don't need a dedicated space. They don't need a separate room. Some kids would probably want to do it. When we started, I want to have all these desks and tables and like all this money. And at the end of the day, the kids just wanted to be with you. And it's easy if you sit around the table and they sit with you, you can quickly help them while they work independently with their work. Basic stationery, okay? So you don't need flashy things, just basic things. A small space for your books. She uses a nice little trolley from Kmart with everyone's stationery separated. I just have a little bookshelf where they just put their things in. Just some place where they can put stuff away and say, I'm done for the day, my work's finished. You don't have to look for books, you don't search for things. So just have a dedicated space for all your stationery and books. You don't need billions of books. We like books. Some people do not use books. There's lots of free resources on the internet that you can use. I get overwhelmed when I start looking for stuff. It feels like this rabbit hole. I go here and then there and then there, and 3 hours later, I'm so confused and overwhelmed. I'm like, I'm not doing this. So we prefer books. It's easy. The kids like the books. 2 reasons. One, at the end of the year, they have a big sense of completion. My youngest will say, wow, Mom, look at all this work I've done through this year. And it's like a little stamp for them. Like, I know, you've worked so hard. So they can have a look at it. We mark the work. So whenever there's a lot of crosses, I can call her back and say, honey, what's happening? Why don't you understand? And we can actually revisit the work. Where if it's online, I really struggle to navigate where they're at, how much has been completed, and if she actually done the work. One of my kids will just, when she was in school, maths will be online and it will be multi-choice. So she'll just select D, 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 done. And I'm like, why did you select D? She's like, well, most of the time it's correct. So she'll get 60%. Everyone will think she's genius and she read that much. So I'm like, you're not doing online work. Online works for some people. In my case, it did not work. So we like books. You can let your kid work out of the book. In the beginning, we bought these little $1 workbooks from Big W or Kmart, so they don't work out of the big textbooks, because you can sell those again secondhand. So there's a massive secondhand Facebook page in the area. You can buy resources from there. You can also sell the books. So, and if you do it that way, it don't cost that much money, but up to you how you want to do it. Library is a good resource as well. If your kids like to go to the library, all the science, geography, history books you can get from the library. So heaps you can do. So there's just an example of them pretending to be working and doing something productive. At the kitchen, just doing artwork. So we had a lovely teacher teaching them ukulele. All right, so online resources. Some do a small subscription fee. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of Twinkle. Twinkle is a massive resource site for primary school especially. Awesome resources. It's a monthly payment. I think once a year they have a free day or a free week. So that's when we log on and we just download as much resources as we can to use. So you have to print them off and then they can do it. So online, heaps. Again, books, you can use secondhand, you can resell them. Something tangible for them to be proud of. They can see their progress, sense of completion. And then we like it because all those books ticks the New South Wales outcome. So when the AP comes and you give them the books, you show them your diary and you have a summary of everything they've done, she's over the moon. Okay? It doesn't take much to impress them. Okay? And as a visual reminder, you can maybe tell that story of Caitlin.
Yeah. My kids forget about the online stuff. So we tried science online, and 4 weeks later, I'm like, when last did you guys do science? Oh, Mom, no, I don't know, because I forget, they forget. The books is a visual reminder that we need to do their work. They take their books at the beginning of the week. My son doesn't sit at the kitchen table, so he sits at a table next to my desk, so he puts his books there. When he's done with a book, he puts it on my table, and he knows this pile is what I've got left. when I'm done with his book, I know he's done for the week, and I put it back in his trolley. But tomorrow morning, his books are still there that he still needs to work out of for the week. So for him, he knows this is what I need to do. It's a visual reminder for him that there's still work to be done, and I can't necessarily take a day off unless my work is done. So online, we do forget. Unfortunately, I'm busy, I forget about it, I've got other things to think about. So give me a book, it's next to my desk, I know you've worked on this book, I can mark it, I can see where you're at. If I have to log into 3 different kids' resources online, passwords, everything, now I just forget about it, so it's not going to happen. But again, it's up to everyone to choose.
Yeah. So I just make a little roster. So every day, well, 4 days of the week, it's maths, English, every day, and then one day will be science, one day geography, one day history. And then that's the books I take out in the morning, do them, put them back at night. She's pretty organized, so she highlights all at the beginning, so the index, what has to be achieved by the end of each term. And then they just go through it, and once they reach that, they're like, oh, I can go on holidays now, I'm done. You know, so it just gives the kids a sense of
completion,
ownership as well.
They're progressing through the work.
And it's similar to life skills. You know, if you work for a boss, he's going to tell you, you need to do this amount of work by this date. How you get to that date and how you're going to go through your work's up to you. So my young daughter, I woke up one morning and the light was on. It was like 5 a.m. and she was doing maths. I'm like, what in the world are you doing? And she's like, I'm doing maths because if I do everything today, I have next week free. I'm like, sure, you have next week free. So she had a whole week free and she's like, Mom, I'm so bored. I'm not going to do this again. I'm like, fine. But that's how you learn how to navigate your time and how you use your time. Where back in the school structure, they tell you when your time's up. You have an hour, that's it, move on, hour, that's it. Where now they can regulate their own pace. And if it's not done, you don't get to go on holiday. And you don't get to go on a Saturday trip because your work is not done. It's your responsibility. Again, just teaching them life skills. It has consequence. All right, so you get all-inclusive programs. You have Yuka. You can maybe tell more on that.
Yes, we tried Yuka for a term. It's an online resource. I've got many resources that you can print, which we did. We had them in files. But my daughter did not love it. I've heard many people say that their kids don't like it, but I've also heard many people say that they do like it. So Yuka is an option, and it's a very popular option. There's many people who go that route, and that's completely fine. But yes, my daughter did not love it. There's a lot of things in there, but there's a lot of fluff in there to just fill up the time and the space that doesn't actually teach them. I found that when she moved them back to actual workbooks, that she learned more than she did with the Yuka resources. But again, there's kids that thrive on it.
And when the AP comes, don't just put Yuka and think you're covered. She will not be happy. So yes, you can say you're doing Yuka, but you also need to list other resources and other ways you're going to teach your kid, because she wants to see how you're going to be involved in their learning, not just a computer program. So just keep that in mind if you do enroll with Yuka and you do the AP program. Simply Homeschool is another one. My Homeschool, we haven't used these two, but I know they're very popular, especially people going to high school. I think parents feel inadequate to teach their kids when they go to high school. It's not the case, guys. Really, your kid can do high school, buy books, you can do that. With Google and AI, there's nothing you won't be able to help your kid with. Really, I promise, okay? I can even do your maths for you. Take a photo and it'll work everything out and you'll look like a genius. So don't ever feel like you have to use other resources because you're inadequate. That's not true. All right, so talk to your AP before purchasing. All right, so there's heaps more, like the internet's full of stuff. High school, all right, not overwhelming, really it's not. Most of the stuff today, the books are self-explanatory. Again, your child's in high school, you set them up for life. They need to figure out, how am I going to solve a problem? If their boss tells them, this is a problem, you need to solve it, they cannot run back to the boss and say, oh, I don't know how to do this, you need to help me. Okay, they need to learn the skills, how am I going to get to the solution? And that's part of life skill training. So books are self-explanatory, they have YouTube, they have Google, they have so many things to help them. They're self-educated, it helps them with life. Learner-driven. Sorry, did you want to take a photo?
That was really
I thought there was more. Yeah, so both our kids are in high school. It's not that daunting. They survive. I'm a secondary school teacher. I see what they do every day. I promise you, you can do the work. All right, so what we do. So why are we here? First of all, the expo was for you guys to help you connect with other people and get some resources. So I hope that really helped. But secondly, we help with registration. I know it's easy to tell you what to do, but we had help in the beginning, and that really took the stress out of it. We had a whole package we could just give to the AP, and she was happy and approved us for a year. So we definitely help you guys with registration. So we do 3 registrations. One's your initial registration. That's where you first start to do the application for homeschool. That's $150. We do everything for you. Then we have a re-registration. So after the first year, what happens, people show the AP what they've done, and the new plan, and sometimes they're not very happy and they only get 3 to 6 months approval. We had the one lady where she constantly for 5 years got only 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. It's very stressful. It's a lot of hard work. So we help with re-registrations as well. After we helped her, she got 2 years. So it's just compiling everything in the way that they want to see it and makes sense. So that service is $250, and then we have a year 10 certificate of completion registration help, so we can help you formalize your year 10 for your child. All right, so re-registration, we do the plan for you, we help you with your resources. All right, and then, do we have any high school parents here at all? I think most of you are primary. All right, but tell your friends, okay? So we love high school. Our kids are high school. So we have a program on a Tuesday. It's a drop and go service. So you drop your kids off at 9:15 in the morning. You pick them up at 3. And we do maths, English, science, business, whatever with them. You get a whole folder at the end of the term. In there is a progress report. We give you all the outcomes for each subject that was achieved. So when you go to AP, you just give her the whole folder. All the outcomes are there. The proof of all the work that has been done is in there. They have fun. Our kids' attendance, if it's boring, they'll tell us, Mom, this was so boring. You need to do something else. So we try and make it fun for them as well, but also it's a space for them to connect. We found with the high schoolers specifically, it was very hard to socialize. They have get-together groups, but it's very big, and it's not always the same kids that come, so they really find it challenging to connect with that one friend. So we created this space for them. So you need to submit for a whole, or commit for a whole term, so that the kids are the same kids every single Tuesday. And we've seen beautiful friendships being formed just by doing that. It's a small group. We cap it around about 10, 15 kids. So they tend to help each other. They do group work. They communicate. And it's a safe space. There's no pressure. They have fun learning together. Okay. Questions?
Just click 1 or 2, because that's where...
Okay, are there payments or grants for homeschooling? Oh, I wish there were, but there's none. All right. Can you homeschool your 11 and 12? Yes, you can. I'm still trying to figure out what is the benefit of it. Unlike the year 10 certificate of completion, you get nothing for year 11 and 12. So even if your child is done year 11 and 12, you don't get any paper of recognition whatsoever. For us, is that the next one?
No, that's
no. So we homeschool up to year 10, and then you have either apprenticeship, or you can go to TAFE, or you can do bridging courses through university, and you can go there. So there's lots of options after that that actually give you a paper to say you have achieved something. Again, if you want to do year 11 and 12, up to you. It looks like a lot of hard work. I don't know if I would be willing to do it, but there's definitely people that does it. But yeah, we haven't found yet why you would do that. All right.
That's it.
Oh, there we go, questions.